Maybe you don't need words. Maybe that's it. Says it all. So I thought that we would begin with a short exercise today, and I hope you will humor me in this. I'd like to ask all of you to close your eyes if that's comfortable, and think back to the time in your life when you first came to this church, specifically your first worship service here. Now, for some of you, this is a really fresh memory. This might be your first worship service here. Others are going to have to do some serious time traveling. Can you remember how you felt that morning? You'd made the decision to come, maybe set your alarm clock, possibly had some mixed feelings. Why am I doing this? Maybe you had to wrangle children or other family members or pets. Can you remember where you parked your car or how you got here? Or for those of you who first attended online, can you remember where you set up your computer? What it felt like to click join and then wait? If you were here in person, where did you sit in the sanctuary? Who was here? What was it like not knowing the words or the music or what was going to come next or what you might be asked to do? Take a minute. And maybe your mind has already naturally traveled here or is holding this already. What brought you here? So before you did whatever you had to do to get the Zoom link emailed to you, before you perused our website to see if you wanted to come or called the church office to find out what time things got going, I'm going to keep time traveling. Looked in the yellow pages. What else did we do way back when? Did we just knock on the door randomly or send a letter by pigeon? What brought you here? What were you hoping for? What were you needing? You can open your eyes if you want to, or keep them closed. These are very personal questions, particularly those last ones. What were you needing? And even in the most mundane of answers, I would argue that there was something important happening for you in your life at that time. For why else be this bold and brave? For that is what it takes, boldness and bravery to cross the threshold to a new spiritual community. For some of you, it was your first time ever in a church. That's bold and that's brave. For others, it was your first time in a church after having been harmed by a previous church or synagogue or temple. That is bold and brave. For some of you, it was your first time in a church after having left your beloved home church because you moved, or some circumstance in your life had changed. Some of you arrived here in the midst of a crisis, looking for comfort or meaning. Others arrived lonely, right? Hoping for friends, a people, a place to belong to. Some of you arrived outraged or oppressed personally by the state of the world and nation and longing for allies and safety and hope. And hope. Many of you arrived with tender and dear hopes and dreams for the young ones in your lives. And some of you maybe felt none of this and were dragged here by someone. But you cared about that person, and maybe you just wanted to appease them. But something must have stuck, for you're still here. I hope you're not still being dragged. No matter what your story, something important brought you here or kept you here. And in all my time as a church member, a church leader, a church studier, and a minister in this big, wacky, sometimes nebulous faith called Unitarian-Universalism, one fact remains. We come to church to have our lives transformed in some way. And there are countless ways to be transformed. You know that. And to be a part of a community. Those two. To belong. And each feeds and informs the other, right? You almost can't have one without the other. And maybe in Jean Renard's story today, maybe the church, this church, the church of each other, I love that, First Parish, is the gathering place at the top of the mountain. Each traveler, us, trusting it to be a place of meaning-making and awakening and direction worth the treks up to it, some being quite treacherous. All of us arriving with a personal faith and life path story to share and wonder about, and there we congregate with one another. These are fellows whose companionship and care teaches us even more about awakening and transformation and belief and doubt and love, maybe. And most often there we sit together at the church at the top of the mountain and say, thank God we are in this together. For we know not where we are going, but thank God we are in this together. And then off those travelers go back out into the world only to return again, maybe taking the same path up, maybe a different one, maybe alone, maybe with some company, dragging along some new traveler. I'm running with this, Jean Renard, so forgive me if I'm just rewriting, in not a good way, your wonderful story. But it is so good and important to go back to these memories of what brought us here, what brings us here, because it puts our minds in touch with why we do all that we do here, right? What really matters. And the covenants we enter into, these mutual promises that we make to each other as a covenantal faith, that we enter into and renew. They remind us of all of this. These mutual promises that we're about to make with our 7 new members. These mutual promises tell us we're spiritual kin, fellow travelers, bound together through fair and foul weather. Shiny and not so shiny human beings here, trying to do the good work we are called to do with one another and in our world. So you see, this covenant that we are about to enter into this morning is for all of us. It is for all of us. And not unlike our beautiful poem today about trust, which reminds us about all the places in our precious lives that we put our faith. Today, we travelers celebrate the mysterious paths which delivered us all to this blessed place. And we especially celebrate and put our faith in those who have chosen to join us as members. What a bold and brave thing to say yes. And I say to each of you that our church is stronger and more beautiful because you are with us. And soon we will get to witness them signing this, our membership book, a record of many of your arrivals here too. What a beautiful thing across time. And so we are going to ready ourselves now. We've all been anxiously awaiting this moment. I know I have.